miles. Turn right on State Route 33.
This should be a nice scenic route. It goes through a wildlife, like sanctuary or something like that. This should be a nice little scenic route. There's that. I know it shows a heavy concentration of traffic at the interstate merges and several spots along the interstate. And you know, when I came down, a lot of those spots I recognized from when I came down, and they were significant. So I feel like I'll make better time taking this back road to get around all of that, those major interchanges especially. And I think I recorded part of one. Y'all might have seen it, or if not, I'll show it to you now.
We go traffic all the way up
on this road.
That's construction, but you're not doing that on construction. Accident.
Right here is cool because you can see.
Accident.
The thing about Florida, man, is it doesn't have significant hills or mountains.
Accident.
It's got some hills or some small hills, slow you down a little bit, but you know, nothing serious.
Accident.
Nothing serious.
Accident. I-10. So that's why
I'll go all the way up through the back road just to catch the scenery.
In 3/4 of a mile, turn right on State Route 33.
50. No, 98. On up to 19.
Checked to see if I could drive this road. It's A-OK. It's good to go.
Turn right at the stop sign.
The product is about waist high. It is liquid juice, but palletized in boxes shouldn't be too big of an issue.
In 1.5 miles, take the exit on the right to I-4 East toward Orlando.
As far as what? This fool's telling me to take I-4 East toward Orlando. Why in the world would I take I-4 East toward Orlando? Amazing.
You're listening to All Things Considered from NPR News. There's a gasoline shortage in Florida, and it's getting worse. As Hurricane Irma heads towards the state, a lot of people are on highways trying to get away from the storm's path. Even those that are staying put are filling their gas tanks to be on the safe side. NPR's Jim Zaroli reports.
All over Florida today, gasoline stations were shut down. Their empty fuel tanks roped off or covered with plastic bags. Where gas was available, long lines of cars waited to fill up. Aaron Izquierdo brought his father's car to a Shell station in Doral today.
It's horrible, man. Just yesterday I was in line for about 2 hours to wait for gas, and by the time we got to the pump, there was no gas.
Irma is following close on the heels of Hervy, which hit Texas and Louisiana and shut down a quarter of the nation's refining capacity. But the problem in Florida isn't supply, it's demand. James Miller of the Florida Retail Association says usually gasoline companies know where a hurricane is going to hit and can target supplies to that region.
But unfortunately, because everyone panicked due to the uncertainty and, quite frankly, the size of the storm, we ended up with shortages in multiple areas of the state.
As a result, 40% of the filling stations in the Miami area were without fuel today. It was 60% in Gainesville. Even in Tampa, which is far from the expected landfall, more than a third of the stations had no gas. Patrick DeHaan is a senior analyst at the website Gas Buddy.
The amount of motorists filling their tank is overwhelming the system. Trucks can't get to stations fast enough, and at the rack, or what some might call a fuel terminal, tanker trucks just can't be loaded as fast as motorists are filling their tanks.
Officials are trying to keep supplies flowing. To keep fuel trucks coming in, they've waived restrictions on the number of hours that truck drivers can work and are even giving trucks police escorts. And the White House has lifted rules to allow foreign flagged ships to bring in fuel. Still, it's dicey finding gas. Scott Alderman of Broward County went for a bike ride today.
I happened by a gas station that did not have gas, but a tanker was pulling right in. And like the Pied Piper, there was like 15, 20 cars following him.
Alderman has lived through hurricanes before, and he knows that if the electricity goes out during the storm, it may be days before gas is available again. So as soon as he saw the tanker coming, he took action.
I raced home on my bike to tell my wife, hey, you need to go fill up. And she had about an hour wait within 5 minutes of me getting home and telling her.
Florida gets almost all of its gasoline through seaports, and once they close tonight, it will be that much harder to get fuel. But people typically tend to stop driving as much in the aftermath of a big hurricane as they rebuild their lives, and supplies should gradually balance out again. Jim Zaroli, NPR News.
I've been traveling the state. We just did this press conference. I've been in I don't know how many cities this week, but as the storm hits, we continue to put information out around the state, because our whole focus is keeping every person in the state safe.
Will you have patrol troopers urging people to get off the roads? Is that how you're going to?
We have 1,700 FHP people around. They're working 12-hour shifts. We will continue to let people know in every manner we can how to evacuate and where to go. Yeah.
Do you plan on traveling tomorrow, and where do you plan to be to ride out the storm?
I'll be deciding my schedule later tonight. So, but I'm going to continue to do whatever I can to get the message out that we care about your safety. You've got to get prepared. If you're in an evacuation zone, you need to get out now and get either to a friend, a family, a hotel, a shelter, but get where you need to go and do not wait.
Ready to go, maybe. Over the course of the last day or so, the track has shifted west a little bit. Has that changed where you guys are thinking about staging stuff for recovery afterwards, whether it's utility or what have you? Is it still in Central Florida area?
Well, we still maintain the State Logistics Resource Center in Orlando. We haven't moved any of that out of there. And the fact, the actual eye of the storm might shift left, right, but the storm is so large, it's going to cover the entire state. So no, it hasn't changed our where we're sourcing anything. Regardless of where it goes in the middle of the state, the entire middle of the state was clobbered. So we're working on looking at Panhandle and other surrounding areas as we put those resources came out of harm's way.
Did it change your focus about where those resources might possibly go then once the storm clears through?
Yes, yeah, that has. I mean, every time the storm shifts, it creates a slightly different hazard for different parts of the state. So every single time we analyze it to see what the impacts might be.
Like all you said, not just today, in the last several days, how concerned are you that some Floridians are still taking this storm too lightly?
Well, if you look, here's my biggest concern is the storm surge. And as you know, this track has moved a little bit west. And so the storm surge is increased on the southwest part of the state. And I just, 2 hours ago, I was down in Fort Myers and talking to them, and they, in their evacuation zones, they know that everyone's not going to evacuate, and that bothers me. I want everybody to evacuate. That's why one of the reasons I've been going around the state to let people know the importance of evacuating. Now, here's what's going to happen. This storm, as we know, is going to continue to move. And I've said this all along. Every Floridian's got to stay informed. And we're going to do everything we can to get the message out, but every Floridian's got to be informed, and you got to follow what the storm's doing. If the storm moves, there might be a new evacuation zone. And as we get more information now, a day ago, we didn't anticipate this much storm surge on the West Coast. Now we're getting it, so we're going to have to change. We need more. We're going to have more. I'm sure we're going to have more people going to shelters now on the West Coast than we thought, 24, 36 hours ago.
That's probably right. But speaking of evacuations, do you guys have a working estimate right now for, even in a ballpark term, how many people have been ordered to evacuate? Just even ballpark. How many people are we talking about on the roads, moving north, that kind of thing?
How you gonna know that?
But we can go back and take a look at that. And like the governor said, it has changed recently with the addition of the greater storm surge zones in southwest Florida. So we'll have to work on that number for you.
Prepare for this, though, if you don't have sort of even just a general sense of it, as it develops.
I'm not saying the numbers don't exist. We have plans that highlight all of those and highlight what the different evacuation zones look like and who are in them. I just don't know on this exact scenario right now what number that is.
And this is done by county. I mean, we're working. So what we do is we have calls.
It's irritating.
And we know exactly what each county needs are. We have emergency management teams in each county. So when they say they're going to evacuate this number of people, it gives us, and they say, okay, we need this many more shelters, and we have shelters where we believe people are going to stay in their county, and we have shelters that we know people are going to leave. That might be in a county where we don't believe there'll be a lot of people that go to a shelter. So we've got both of them, and so we deal with all that, and then we know exactly how many people are going to shelters, and so we open up shelters are constantly around the state. It's scary.
You spoke earlier about keeping Floridians informed, and I'm just confused about one thing. The documents here in your own meeting said that the decision on shoulders was made last night, yet you didn't generally inform the public until this morning in your initial briefing. So I'm a bit confused as to why the delay if the decision was made to do the shoulders last night. Did you have signs up on telling people they could do it?
Everybody on the road knew when we opened the shoulders. If you're on the highway, you know when the shoulders are open.
Ridiculous.
Wouldn't it have been good to let everybody know
if you're on the highway? All right, we've told everybody all along.
That's ridiculous.
Go to fl511.com. You can follow the signs. We are doing everything we can on the roads when we opened up the shoulder to let them know.
If you reach a point where everybody is evacuated that should have been, and yet the roads are still full of people, at that point, if there's no more need to bring resources down to South Florida, is it possible that you will do what Georgia did and allow for contraflow, or is that absolutely out of the picture?
We're gonna continue. Let's stop and think about what's going on. We're in the middle of an emergency. This storm is changing. We're finding new needs all the time. We're solving those needs as quickly as we can.
They can't understand.
We are going to continue to evacuate people as fast as we can. We will deal with our highways and how we get people through the system and through the highways as quickly as we can. Whether it's figuring out where the fuel is, whether it's doing shoulders, whatever we're going to do everything we can to get everybody evacuated.
Traffic is now flowing smoothly on your route.
As the storm goes north, we want you to be safe, and we're going to tell you it's not going to be safe to be on the road. So we're going to do everything we can because I want everybody in the state to survive this storm. And so we're going to put out information and try to help people make sure they make good decisions. Thank you, everybody.
Tell them you ain't got a crystal ball and to stay tuned in to the radio.
Governor Rick Scott live from Tallahassee with a briefing on the situation with Hurricane Irma. I'm Randy Wright at the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network. Here is the absolute latest on the hurricane. It's located 345 miles southeast of Miami at 22.1 north and 76.5 west. It is a very strong Category 4 hurricane with sustained winds at 155 miles per hour. Current movement is to the west at 12 miles per hour. It has yet to make that turn, but we'll continue to monitor the situation closely. But it has slowed slightly down to 12 miles per hour. The current pressure at the center is 925 millibars. Hurricane force winds currently extending outward up to 70 miles. Tropical storm force winds extending outward up to 185 miles per hour. Hurricane warnings currently extended northward now for the east coast of Florida to Sebastian Inlet and along the west coast of the peninsula northward to Anna Maria Island. A surge warning has now been posted for Sebastian Inlet southward around the Florida peninsula to Venice, and that of course does include the Florida Keys. New hurricane watches and surge watches have now been extended along the west coast of Florida north to the Suwannee River. And we've got a surge watch that now extends basically a little bit further to the north along the east and west coast of the state of Florida as well. Very serious situation, as you heard from Governor Rick Scott. We will continue to monitor the situation from a State Division of Emergency Management perspective, as well as monitoring the weather situation for you via the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network and our network of public radio stations around the state of Florida. The Florida Public Radio Emergency Network will continue to monitor the situation with Hurricane Irma and keep you up to date through your Florida Public Radio station and the Florida Storms app, which is available as a free download from Florida's public radio stations. More information on Irma is coming up. We will send it back to our local Florida Public Radio stations. I'm Randy Wright for the Florida Public Radio Emergency Network.
The applications for it, generally speaking, it was for sympathy, and I thought, but then I come to find out sometimes it was
no room in the rest area.
I am going to try to spend the night here.
US 231, Alabama.
Jose is a very powerful storm. It's a Cat 4 storm at the moment. It's got winds of 150 miles an hour. Sort of the coolest part of this is that it could ravage Bermuda all over again. You know, some of those other Leeward Islands on the far northeast side of the Caribbean that suffered so much from Irma, they're also directly in Jose's path. It is predicted that before it gets here to Puerto Rico, it's forecast to take a turn to the north and go out into the Atlantic, away from the Caribbean. You know, but even with that prediction, people that I've spoken to here in Puerto Rico, they're very nervous, and also in other parts of the Caribbean, they're worried that places that just got completely slammed are going to get hit again, and they're worried that this forecast might change, and Jose could still be a threat.
And there's Jason Bobby in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Thanks very much for being with us.
You're welcome.
Hurricane Irma's had winds of 185 miles per hour for 37 hours straight at one point. That's a record. Right behind Irma, of course, is another hurricane, Jose. Not as big, but still very dangerous. As Texas still dries out from its encounter last week with the enormous Hurricane Hervy. Which makes a lot of people wonder, how unusual is this sequence of hurricanes? Is this our future? And is this climate change at work? Here to talk about that is NPR science correspondent Christopher Truice. Chris, thanks so much for being with us.
Good to be here, Scott.
This does seem extraordinary. 3 huge hurricanes in a matter of weeks.
It's unusual, very unusual, and not unprecedented. There have been occasions in the past in the Atlantic and the Pacific where there have been 2 or 3 hurricanes swirling around somewhere. What makes them particularly noticeable, of course, is that they're hitting land. Often these happen, but nobody knows because they never hit land.
How does what we're seeing match up with the predictions that have been made over the years by climate scientists?
So we have to remember that, of course, there have always been hurricanes and would be without climate change. But what the computer models that climate scientists use, what they tell us is that mega storms are going to get bigger. Not necessarily more, there will be more of them, but they'll get bigger. And the reason for this is heat. Heat drives storms. The more heat you have, the bigger storms you have. What happens is hot water creates water vapor. You know, a cup of coffee, it's coming off it. So the water vapor rises, you get convection, it creates circulating winds, and that's what creates the conditions for a hurricane. And what's happened is that, you know, the hurricanes feed off of this fuel. And the hotter the oceans, the more fuel for the hurricane.
Global warming can provide that heat from the ocean.
Yes, I mean, there's always heat, and there have always been hurricanes, but there's extra heat now. I mean,